so we'll just go ahead and get started tonight because we got a really great talk starting. Of course, you know, this is Wild Ones, the Big River, Big Woods chapter of Wild Ones. Wild Ones is a national chapter, and we are the local chapter of Wild Ones. And attendance is always free. Oh, sorry, I don't have a way to shut down the light there. Attendance is always free, but if you join, it helps to support our programs and projects and things like that. So we're always happy. Plus, you get the quarterly journal, which has great articles. Our meetings are generally held in person, but we still try to do Zoom also when possible. And we have several good websites. Our local website is bigriverbigwoods.org. Can I slide this over? No, I can't slide that over. Phew, someone who knows something.
Have we minimized that? For now. Yeah.
Oh, put it up at the top. Okay, that works.
That's fine.
All right. Our website, our local chapter is bigriverbigwoods.org. The national chapter, which has lots of really, really good information on it, is wildones.org. We also have a Facebook page. We also have an Instagram page, and I see Crystal is here tonight. Crystal does our Instagram page. She does an excellent job, so check it out, especially our things starting to really pop now. Good. Let's see. Next. Okay, here we go. Upcoming chapter meetings. Next month, our meeting will be on rain gardens. Kendra is going to be presenting that. Yes, May is our last one. And this is really exciting because we are going to be offering as a raffle drawing for anyone who's not currently a member or has ever been a member, a free 1-year membership for a raffle drawing. So come next month and maybe win or bring your non-member friends and try to win a free year's membership for us. So we have some invasive species removal coming up and over here, and they're at Villa Park and Reservoir Woods. Erica is kind of in charge of that. On the back table, I've left the list of the dates and the times and the places where to go. Come and help. It really makes everything look better. You get to meet a lot of people and have a lot of fun, and it's a great way to get involved and get back. This is the schedule, which I have on the back, which is, that didn't come there. That's the schedule, which is in the back, and it's also on the website. And where to park is also on the information there. The other really interesting thing coming up is not this Saturday, but the following Saturday is going to be the White Bear Lake Seed Libraries having their 10-year anniversary. They've got really fun stuff, planting projects, treats, games. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's from 1 to 3 o'clock at the White Bear Library. I'll be there with Wild Ones information. So bring your friends. There'll be free seeds, all kinds of great stuff. It's going to be a good activity. The other really exciting thing coming up is on the 29th. We're going to be at the library, the Roseville Library on Hamlin Avenue. We bought rights to show this movie, which is The Extraordinary Caterpillar. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's really fantastic. The graphics are amazing on it, and it'll be at the library around 6:15. It's about an hour. Age-wise, any kids who can sit for an hour and be attentive would enjoy it. It's truly awesome. So really think about coming to that.
Camera.
Oh gosh, it's amazing. I've seen the video. It's just like, it makes me want to like do something else in my life. But okay. Let's see. Next. And plant sale. Of course, plant sale's coming up. It'll be Saturday and Sunday, May 30th and 31st. Pickup is going to be in Shoreview this year. The plant list is coming out when?
Joe soon.
Okay.
Is it on? No, he is on. Oh, is that on?
Okay. Joe, put it in the chat. When is it going to be on the thing? similar to last year, there will be no pre-orders. It'll be, come, first serve. But however,
Let me interject.
okay,
North will set up their pop-up tent, and they will have online orders beginning April 20th on their website. They will bring your orders to the event. So you don't have to drive anywhere to get them.
nice. All right. That sounds good. And then I'm sorry, I have sad news for us, though. One of our longstanding members is leaving. John has been such an integral part to this organization. He's been on the board for years. He sponsored the plant sale for several years. And he and his wife's already just sold their house and they're with their beautiful gardens, and somebody's got a beautiful garden now. And they're moving, and so he won't be on our board or be here, but we have a little certificate for you for being such a we will miss you. We will miss you. So tonight's presentation, I'm excited about this. Oh,
Tell them you're ready. We'll put it on the website.
are we ready? We're ready.
Go, tell them it's ready.
Oh, Joe, put it on the website. I can't see anybody on here, so I have no idea. Oh, no, check. He said he'd do it immediately. Then tonight, I'm excited because trees, I mean, we haven't had a lot of discussions about trees, and I think trees are just so darn important. We always talk about all the flowers, and grasses, but trees and shrubs are really super important. And Monica, who's here, one of our members, suggested that we contact Dave. She said he's got fantastic pictures, which I'm told is true, and is a great talk. And he's going to be talking to us tonight about it. I'll just do the good things about him. Let's see. He has a master's degree in urban and community forestry from the University of Minnesota. He is an ISA certified arborist, and he's been teaching plant identification to everyone from master gardeners to municipal employees. He's a former vegetation management specialist. That sounds very, very fancy. I like it. Yeah, it sounds very fancy. He's also authored Minnesota Noxious Weeds. Oh, I've seen that book, yeah. And worked extensively to protect threatened and endangered species. And he's now retired, loves to go up to the Boundary Waters and spend time. And we are just really fortunate to have him come here tonight and put up with all our nonsense trying to get all this technology working. So thank you. And we're excited to have you talk tonight. So, and there will be a drawing after. We have two things tonight. We have a book on trees, and we have the Wild Ones mug that we will be raffling right after the end. Oops, I'm sorry. And don't forget, next one, the pre-version. How did we do this, Troy? We said play from start.
You can go down there and click that guy. I think that'll do it. And then I can use the arrow keys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it looks great on it. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, I'm Dave Hanson. I did recently retire, not even a full year ago from MnDOT. Love the job, love the people, and I got to work with a lot of people from other agencies, so it was a good time. And yeah, so tonight what we're gonna do is Minnesota trees, and we're gonna go through the biomes a little bit and kind of tell you what we find in each of the biomes and how those biomes developed. And I probably don't have to spend a lot of time on this page because it was just gone over. Yes, I was the author. Now I'm the co-author on Minnesota Noxious Weeds. What else is on there? ISA certified arborist, Minnesota tree inspector, and then I was on several committees with Monica for a while, the Noxious Weed Advisory Committee. Formerly, I was at the University of Minnesota for 10 years in urban forestry, doing research, doing other stuff, doing a lot of outreach. And I was a master gardener in Anoka County until I got too busy with a lot of other stuff and I just had to step away. So some of the other talks that I've done recently, and I continue to do talks, Minnesota ferns, you can't really see it up there because it got covered up. And then there's another one there that says I am seldom bored out in the wilderness, and it's just a bunch of short topics. One of the topics in there that would be interesting to this group is the milkweed pollination. Has
Go sit
anyone
down.
ever looked into how that happens?
Oh, sit
You
down.
should. It's pretty fascinating. It's not as straightforward as a lot of the other flowers. And then, yeah, I do a lot of tree identification talks. I've talked at the Minnesota Shade Tree Short Course for the last 4 years. And then this one's one of my fun ones, armed and sometimes dangerous. It's just plants to look out for when you are out working. And I've given that to Boy Scouts and a lot of our maintenance workers, our bridge workers at MnDOT, just keeping them safe when they're out there. We have a safety group at MnDOT, we did, and occasionally they'd give some bad information. We'd stop them and
How many needs this mouse back?
or the arrow. These did work. Oh, yeah, I can use
Is
that.
that okay?
Yeah.
I think it'll work.
That'll work.
Right.
So I just wanted to cover this slide really quick because I'm going to show you the major biomes of Minnesota. And this slide pretty much tells you how over the generations and the eons, these things have come about. The big one is right up there on the upper right is the annual precipitation. Notice in Minnesota over the years, it's much drier on the west side of the state. Hence the grasslands are out there. It's much cooler and much moister on the east side of the state. And this really plays out. This map is the mean temperatures in December to February. That is the one that plays into the hardiness zones. And that's how they start building that, looking at, it's much cooler in the northern Minnesota. It's much warmer in southern Minnesota, especially during the winter months. And we are seeing a change. If you listen to Mark Seeley talk, we are seeing a change in winter temperatures. They are going up. One of the big issues is in the summer temperatures, overnight humidities and temperatures do not drop the way they used to. That doesn't give these plants a chance to take a rest. That's one of the real stressors that's coming in. But these are what really play into these biomes. And then you start looking at all these other factors, topography, soils, slope aspect. Are the trees on the north facing or the south facing slope? They handle things differently so that different trees show up there. And the first of these biomes we're going to look at is northeast Minnesota. So that's our typical, it's a mixed forest, it's a conifer forest. You may hear it called a boreal forest. It's not quite. It's an intergression between what we have here in southern Minnesota, the hardwood stands, and the true boreal forest to the north. It is a heavy conifer forest. So what we're seeing there is there's much more transition going on in there. But we have things like down to the Laurentian Divide right near Virginia. There's a lot of hardwood stands, but then you'll get a mix of conifers in there. If you get farther up into the boundary waters, now you're seeing a lot more conifers, but you're still seeing a lot of hardwoods mixed into those stands. It's not till you get way, way northeast Minnesota that you really pick up strong conifer stands. And then there's just a few of the shrubs that you might see as you're wandering around up there. These are the conifers of Minnesota. There aren't that many of them, so our palette's fairly small. There's one of them on this page that does not belong up in northeast Minnesota. Well, it shows up occasionally, but it's that eastern red cedar. That one really doesn't have a presence up in northeast Minnesota very much, but it does like the southwest and the west side of the state. It handles that dry stuff much better.
Should we be able to know what they
Nope.
are by looking at them?
I can name them. White pine up above,
Okay.
and red pine and jack pine. So those are the 3 pines. And then down in here, we have tamarack, eastern hemlock, which is threatened in the state. It's probably endangered. And then Canada yew is a smaller shrub. And we have balsam fir. We have 2 spruces in the state of Minnesota, black spruce and white spruce. And then we plant in a bunch of others. And then northern white cedar, and this one is common juniper. So it's related to eastern red cedar. And we will talk about some of these. And you will see a scattering of bird pictures stuck in here just to keep you interested, waiting for the next one. So these guys really do like northeastern Minnesota, and they thrive on eating buds off of a lot of stuff, in particular some of the hazels. I've seen them a lot, picking buds off hazel. One of the oldest, longest live trees in Minnesota, northern white cedar. And Dr. Lee Freilich and his crews do a lot of work up in the Boundary Waters, and they have aged trees out over 1,000 years old. So these guys have been on the landscape a long time. The other ones up there that are notably old age are white pine. And some of the red pine get up in there, but not quite as old as those two. So I'm not going to talk about this one very much, but one of the things I like about this picture is you look at that hillside in the back. You see the northern white cedar borders the lake, and then usually right behind it, there's some spruce. And you take a step up, got a bunch of paper birch right there. Take another step up, you got a little bit of mix of conifer and then aspen. And then as you get up onto the plateau, then that mixed forest really starts to take over, where you got a lot of conifers, pines, spruces. And then you get the aspen, and you'll have some red maples mixed up in there and some other hardwoods. So that's one of the things I like about that picture, is it just kind of shows you how these guys find their place in that landscape. Pretty much, that's typically it. And then if this is a south facing slope, so that would also drive what's on there versus if it had been facing north.
And those were painted.
These were not planted. These are all natural boundary waters. This is near Eagle Mountain, if you're familiar with Eagle Mountain. So these are the two spruces. And these maps you're seeing are from the Bell Museum Herbarium. So they are based mostly on Minnesota County Biological Survey findings and then some older findings. So these are not mapping stuff that's been planted in the metro area or on people's streets or in people's yards. These are plots out in the woods for the most part. So you can see the dots give you a good idea of where they have located these trees. And you notice they're in northeast Minnesota. They're not so much down in the south end. You'll get disjunct populations sometimes down in the southeast. They'll be on those north facing slopes where it's cooler and there's more moisture. The snowpack stays there longer. They won't be so much on the south facing slopes where the sun gets in there and just beats them. Typical stand of black spruce out in the tamarack bog. Black spruce, tamarack, they really go together. And then there's a lot of alder here, speckled alder. So that's fairly typical of them. This white spruce over here, I believe this had been a cut over stand, and now it's coming back. It's probably about 20 years old. And you can see behind it is some hardwoods and some pines are also back up in there. I encourage people to go out in the spring when the conifers are starting to bloom. That's what you're seeing right there. These are the young ovulate cones. So that's what will become the cones you're seeing up above. And these are the male pollen cones, and they're going to open up and let the pollen go. Totally wind disseminated. It'll get blown up in. A lot of these conifers, the cones are up in the top of the tree. So that wind has to move that pollen upwards and get it up in there. And that happens pretty regularly. So the cones on the black spruce are pretty small. The needles are pretty short. The cones are about 3/4 of an inch and kind of egg shaped. And the needles are maybe 1/2 inch at the longest. Whereas on the white spruce, we're going to get a little longer needle, and the cones are going to be about 1.5 inches to 1 inch. Black spruce doesn't like the metro, but white spruce handles it pretty well down here. This is our one native fir, balsam fir. Several things we'll go over. Notice it's well represented up in northeast Minnesota. And the other thing about it is that shape is very classic. This one is open grown, so it's right on Highway 61 up there near one of the state parks. but it's out in the open, so it's got that nice traditional form. That's one reason I use this picture. A couple little seedlings up there. It will get to be about 50 feet. So people need to think about that. That's the one thing, you're selecting trees, make sure you're thinking about how tall, how wide. Because these will easily get 30 to 40 feet wide, no problem. I mean, they'll be 15 feet off each side. Single flat linear leaves, we'll take a look at those. They will persist for 8 to 13 years. That's a long time. And then the cones, they are erect on the branch. They do not persist. Throughout the winter, they just break apart and fall. And that is what they look like early spring. Oh, look at the wrong picture up here. So there's the two white lines on the bottom side of the needle. And on the top side, they're very green and shiny. I work out at a Christmas tree farm, and I'm always telling people you need to go out and find the flat needles because they're always looking for firs. Spruces, you can roll the needles around. They're kind of four-sided. These guys you can't roll around. And then I tell them flip the line over and look for those white lines. They're not always as prominent as this one. There's the bark. The bark has resin blisters. Back in the day, they would collect that sap you're seeing come off there, the resin. They would use it on microscope slides because it refracted the light in such a way that it worked really well. It didn't mess with the specimens they were trapping underneath those slides. And here, I was one ahead of myself. Now you can't see those lines very well on this picture, but they're still there. And we use those lines quite often when we're diagnosing problems. If we're looking for fungal problems with needles, especially on the spruces, we're looking to see if anything's erupting out of, those are the stomate lines. So that's where the openings are in those needles that allow oxygen, carbon dioxide exchange, they allow moisture exchange, they help drive transpiration through the tree where the water is being sucked up in. They help drive all that, and they can be closed in most trees so that they can, shut down during a dry period and not move that moisture. Not as easily for conifers to do that. So there's the male pollen cones, and here's a young ovulate female cone that will get fertilized and be ready to go. And here's what those look like in September. And then as we get into the winter, this is what you see left on the tree, just these stalks. And if you look at the top of a balsam, there's hundreds of these stalks up on top of there. The needle or the cones just come apart. There will be two seeds on each scale. So there's a lot of seed production up in there. And they just they drop down onto the snow, and hopefully they hit the nice, fresh, moist ground early spring after the snow melts, and they get going. So that was recently taken. I was holding a Triscuit. That's my camera right here. And apparently they were comfortable with that. But Dorothy Moulter and Sigurd Olson, they both lobbied for this guy and or the pileated woodpecker to be the state birds, rather than this interloper that we have that flies in, flies out. So here are the three pines: the white pine, the red pine, and the jack pine. This is the longest lived of the bunch. This is kind of medium at about, well, this will go out to 350. It'll do that. This one will get into the 250 to maybe 300. This one, 150 years, you're looking at a pretty rough jack pine. So they are a pioneer species, the jack pine is. They come in early after the fires. You've got the rottenness cones that open up, let the seeds go onto that nice black soil. It's two needle pine. The needles are divergent, and we'll take a look at that on the next slide. Also two needle, but a much longer needle. These are maybe 2 inches. These get out to be about 4 to 5. And this is the iconic tree that we're all wanting to be up there listening to. They all smell good. The red and white pine give you that whisper. Jack pine, not so much. Jack pine is just it's not a pretty tree. Hence, we don't use it in the landscape at all. So there's the bark on the three of them. Very coarse, chunky, big chunks on an older tree. And these, I like to think of them as little puzzle pieces. They flake off and leave different colors behind on that, but it's mostly reds. And then over here is jack pine, very rough, shaggy looking bark. And there are those divergent needles that I didn't spread those. That's the way they are on the tree. So that's one way to tell them apart. And then over here, we have the 5 needle. So you can see the needles on here only persist for 2 years. These go, doesn't say it on there. It should be 4 to 5 years. And then this one is 2 to 3 years. So a little bit about the white pine, and then we're going to move on. Did you know the King of England came into the colonies and he said, all your white pines are mine because I like them for my ships. So they went in with the Broad Arrow Act, they called it, and they would mark every white pine on their properties. The colonists got kind of upset about all this because how are they going to build their cabins if this is all they have? So anyway, that played into the 1772 Pine Tree Riot, which was about the time of the Boston Tea Party. And then shortly after that, there was that little thing called the Revolutionary War. So they weren't very happy with the king. So again, these are just pictures of 5 needle pine. So 2 to 5 inch long needles, 4 to 8 inch long cones. So they can be up to about 8 inches long. And then that dark scaly bark, which you already saw. And the mature trees, we look for that staghorn branching that you see over here. Once they get big, go up to Interstate State Park and look across to the Wisconsin side, you'll see a lot of white pine over there, and it's just gorgeous. And if you go to the other side and look back, you can see the same thing, but might as well stay in Minnesota. So this is early June, they're just coming out, and there's later in the season. This is something, if you were working in extension or a diagnostic clinic or something like that, you get calls late in the season, or a lot of consulting arborists get calls. Those, see the needles getting yellow on the inside? That's just, yeah, they're asking, why is my pine tree dying? First, you have to play the game as well. What kind of pine tree do you have? Is it a fir pine? Is it a spruce pine? And if you narrow it down to white pine, but any of these conifers, it's the inside needles. As they age, they're going to drop off the tree. So the new growth is just fine. Back in here is 2 to 3 year old needles that are going to go. It's really common. And then this is just a comparison. White pine, red pine. I'm pretty sure that one in the background, the scraggly looking thing, is jack pine.
One looks like it's dying, it's not dying, it's just dropping
Nope.
its leaves.
Just dropping older needles. So the interior needles drop off in September, October.
Yeah.
They're leaves, they're needles. Yes. All the conifers do.
Doing my yard back to get over the winter and I got something.
Yeah, there can be other reasons that they brown off, depends upon how they brown off, but interior needles are usually the ones.
They be dispersed all over, or are they usually in one area where they'll start dying?
No, usually on that scenario, they're all throughout the tree.
All
Yep, from the top to the bottom. If it's in one area, it's probably something else going on. All right. We are still up in the northeast Minnesota. Birches have catkins, right? Just a picture showing all the catkins. There's going to be one here I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Catkins are not obvious. But paper birch, we're all pretty familiar with that one. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it. For some reason, range map is gone, but that's all right. This one, probably 100, 120. So go back about 15 years, there was a lot of concern about the trees on the North Shore. And eventually, I mean, everybody was complaining about climate change. And then there was a wise forester from the US Forest Service that stepped up and said, think about when we harvested this last, late 1800s, early 1900s. And now we're 120 years in. We're losing the old paper birch. It's still a small component in the forest. And then one of the things that was competing with though was balsam fir was really coming in strong too. So, but that was kind of an eye opener for a lot of people. It's just, wasn't so much climate change. There was an age out going on too. Yeah, so about 120, 125 years. Somewhere in there. So we're not gonna talk about that guy very much. We're gonna talk about yellow birch a little bit more. Yellow birch, you can see these populations down in the south. Most of the DNR foresters will tell you, good luck. You're not gonna find them too much. It's gotten quite rare in southern Minnesota, but it is very well represented up in the north. You get just north of the Twin Cities, get up into Jay Cook State Park, get up into some of the other state parks. There's a lot of yellow birch up there. And it has this yellow bark, sometimes almost golden, shiny, especially on younger trees. And there would be catkins up in there, you can't see them. And that's one of the older ones I've ever run. That, when I first walked by it, I thought, old paper birch. And then I started looking around and I went, oh no, this is good old yellow birch. And there's a couple of places, if you don't want to go down to the Arboretum, you can go to Winona State campus. You can go to the St. Paul campus. You can find some of these trees. Both of those organizations have put up maps. Winona State has got a nice tree map of the whole campus. So does the St. Paul campus. And you can find those on the web, and then you can go to the campus, do a walking tour of a lot of these trees. So down at Winona State, they tried to put in all of the native species. And so you can find yellow birch down there. It's a little bit wider leaf. They're doubly toothed, meaning there's a big tooth and then little tiny teeth on top of it. A lot of the birches are like that. And these are the female catkins. They will mature over the summer and then they'll fall apart the next winter. The veil flowers are out here. They're already done and gone because they're no longer needed.
Stupid question. Catkins are like pine cones?
Catkins are the male flower. So you'll see them here. So there they are overwintering. This is that catkin extending and releasing the pollen for the female flowers, which are out here on the end of the new growth. So that's how that works on a lot of these hardwoods. The male flowers tend to be on that last season's wood and they hold on there. Whereas the new female flowers will be out in that new growth. So it's protected a little bit better during the winter. And the male flowers, they have to just survive the winter. All right, so going through the season, if you're out in the woods now, you might be seeing some brown leaves hanging on still. In the understory, you're more than likely looking at ironwood. And this is pretty much all over the state. You can see that range map. You can run into ironwood in almost all the woodlots around here. And yep, we have nice bark. People call it the shredded wheat bark. It's kind of corky. It's kind of thin strips all the way up the tree. And then the male catkins. And I think I can get rid of that. And you may still have these little puffy pillow seed pods hanging on the tree. Hence the name hop hornbeam. It looks like American hops a little bit. And then down here is early spring. We're getting to that probably any day now. And then in June, you'll start seeing that seed develop again and nice fall color in October. So it's not a bad specimen tree. It's actually a very good specimen tree. And this one doesn't need to be in the shade. Neither does Blue Beech, which we'll talk about as well, which is very closely related. And we are transitioning down into central and southeast Minnesota. So now we're moving to the big woods section, or what they call the big woods up through Minnesota. And it's mostly hardwood. There are some conifer stands in here. They'll be mixed in, but it's mostly a hardwood environment. So this is at Wild River State Park. And then this is down southeastern Minnesota. This is on one of our trips. We were doing Japanese hops or one of those, but that's black maple. And we're going to look a little bit at black maple. Black maple's very, very similar to sugar maple, just a little different. Silky dogwood, and then these are two spireas that we have in the state, native spirea. One is called meadowsweet and one is called hardhack. Those are the common names. So think about this. This is a birch. And this is blue beech or hornbeam, or also called musclewood. And I'll explain why it's called musclewood. It's a small tree that handles the shade very well. And people use it in the metro in shaded areas. If you got enclosed courtyards where there's no sunlight getting down in, this is a good choice because it handles that shade. It thrives there. Typically green leaves, potentially good fall color, sometimes yellows and reds. And then they have the small raceme structures of black covering nutlets. The trunk develops this fluted structure, and we will look at that. So what is obvious?
It's alive.
It's alive. Catkins. You're not seeing the male catkins up here. The male flowers though are buried in these little, but remember on the birches, they have all those male catkins hanging out there. This is a birch, it doesn't have it. So there, whoops, I hit the wrong. There we go. So there's the male flowers. They're extending, letting pollen go. Here are the female flowers. Same setup as you saw on the ironwood. I keep hitting the wrong one. So this is the trunk. And we'll hit this one more time. And you can see it's kind of like sinuous muscle and tendons. And it's got that fluid structure. It's pretty cool stuff. And then this is out on the St. Paul campus out in full sun. They are really good specimen trees. They don't get horribly tall. So often recommended for under power line use and that kind of thing. They can be controlled pretty well.
Didn't you just say that they like shade and not say full sun? They can do both.
They can do both. But yes, they'll handle the shade, but they'll do just fine out in the sun. You wouldn't want them on a dry site, but where there's good moisture, they're going to do really well. Pileated woodpeckers. All right, these are some of our maples. And I left two off here. We're going to talk about them a little bit more. But silver maple, red maple, box elder, mountain maple. And I always get on people's cases. They're always calling and asking, well, how do I get rid of box elder? Why are you getting rid of box elder? Do you have a management plan that says you need to get rid of box elder? It's a good wildlife tree. It's not a bad tree. Yes, it's aggressive. But we have other aggressive trees. Red and silver maple are considered the soft maples. And the reason for that is they mature their seed in the spring. They drop their seed in the spring. They're both near river type settings. And they're both trying to take advantage of that wet spring. Whereas our box elder, things like mountain maple, which is a shrub up in the North Woods, sugar maple and black maple, those seeds are maturing in the autumn and then overlaying the winter. So here's black maple. And then I'm going to show you sugar maple. We're going to talk a little bit more about sugar maple. Black maple is almost identical to sugar maple. You can see as the name up there, yep, Acer nigrum or Acer saccharum, which is our sugar maple subspecies nigrum. So as the botanists haven't straightened it out completely yet. There's a little dissension amongst the ranks, but eventually if somebody does some DNA analysis, they'll probably do that and they'll figure out whether they're truly separate species. But most of the botanists consider them truly separate. Some of the differences are the leaves on the black maple droop the side laterals. So they look like they're wilted all the time. And then they have stipules back here, which sugar maple doesn't retain its stipules. Stipules are little leafy parts on the back of the leaf stem. But the fall color is really good. And all the rest of the description would match up with sugar maple, which is this right here. The only thing that is usually different is they will tell you black maple is potentially more drought tolerant than sugar maple. And that's just because of where its ecotones. You'll find sugar maple and black maple both all the way down through the southern states.
You tap.
I believe you can. You can tap just about. There isn't a maple you can't really. A lot of people think Norway maple is not tappable because sometimes of the year you'll see milky sap. But that's out in that new growth. But yeah, all of the maples can be tapped. It's just a matter of what concentration. How long do you want to boil? That's what it boils down to. Fall color is highly desirable. The only real difference you would see between these two descriptions, black maple, they might say 3 lobes to 5 lobes, and here they're going to say 5 to 3. It's predominantly more 5 lobed on the sugar maple. And we won't talk about John Ball. He's out of South Dakota State University. He wrote a good book, and I've met him several times. All right, you can see sugar maple. I don't think I told you about the black maple. Black maple is really a southern Minnesota tree. Sugar maple is well represented all over the state. And some of the pictures have dropped out. That's okay. Early spring, and what I was going to show you was the big tree really in early spring. You get this lime green color, that's the flowers. The maples are really odd in their flowering. We had some male cultivars of red maple because they were able to grab a red maple branch that was totally male flowers and propagate from that. A lot of these they're polygamous, so the male flowers are here, the female flowers are here. Sometimes they're separated by branch, sometimes they're all on the same branch. In this case, they're mixed. And that's not just because it's sugar maple, it's just the way this stupid thing is. Sorry, shouldn't call it stupid. There's this sugar maple leaf. Black maple leaves look very similar, except they droop. And then they're got this notched out, and the samaras are the same way. And notice the samaras are hanging on till way late in the autumn. And pretty quick here, you're going to be cleaning your gutters out if you don't have gutter protection, because silver maples will be dropping those seeds. People notice they've been blooming. They bloomed mid-March. The silver maples did. And the elms and the cottonwoods and a bunch of other stuff is blooming now. And that's not helping me up here. So that's why we plant sugar maple. And if we can get out into big open spaces like this, is a cemetery near Gross Golf Course over in northeast Minneapolis. And then this is over in Wisconsin, across the river.
Is that the same as a fire maple?
Probably. Fire might be a cultivar. This is sugar maple. I mean, this is the straight species. So, and yeah, then they go selecting. They might find one that's got more red to it. So they'll select and they'll propagate from that. That's how some of those weird names come up. Yeah, the Freeman maple is a cross between the silver and the red, natural cross. And yeah, there's a whole mess of those. That is probably one of the most overused trees at the moment. And Gary Johnson likes to joke about the ruby-throated maple borer. I mean, when that gets here, what's going to happen to our forests? It's kind of like the emerald ash borer. I don't know if you guys know Gary Johnson, but he was a professor I worked with at the U. But we all shouldn't plant maples. There's so many other good trees. And this robin, I don't know what was wrong with it. I photographed it from about 15 feet away and stepped up, took another picture, stepped up, stepped up. It just sat there and stared at me. Okay, maybe it had been eating too many alcohol-related berries. All right, yeah, I got started late. We're gonna go a little long. But, you've all heard of maple basswood forests. They are often a cohort together in these forests. And you can see there's another one that's well scattered or well represented around the state. Basswood is another good choice in trees, especially in the urban setting. We use a lot of basswood, a lot of little leaf linden, and there's ways to tell those two apart. John Ball does make a comment here. This one provides a lot of nectar for bees. And he's talking about it smells good, and the bees also enjoy the flowers. Basswood honey is amongst the best, and it really is. It's a high quality honey. Deciduous forest, sugar maple basswood, pyramidal in youth, and it maintains that quite a while into its life. You'll see that in a couple of pictures here. Alternate, simple, serrate margin, acuminate drawn out tip. We'll take a look at the leaves. Main reason I'm showing the leaves is then you can go home compared to the low leaf linden you have in your yard and see how they might be different. I think these are a little less susceptible to Japanese beetle. I think they've got a little harder leaf or something. Now, don't get me wrong, Japanese beetle will decimate pretty much anything and everything. Once it gets tired of the little leaf linden you had, it's going to move to the oak or whatever else, or your roses, or they're hungry little bugs. Yes, that one is throughout the state, even out on the west side. But what you would find out on the west side is it would be, so finding protected areas where there's waterways, near rivers or near a lake, on the east side of the lake, because your fires would have come from the west and pretty much burned up the trees there. And if that fire can't jump the lake, then you've got these pockets of trees all the way down. This is really common out in the woods, multi-stemmed, and the young stems are very gray, very smooth. But the mother tree dies and you get a lot of root sprouting. A lot of our forest trees will do this. Red oak does it pretty well. You can't see these pictures very well. That's porcupine damage. They get up in there and they just clean the bark. If you go up to Bunker Hills Park right now in Coon Rapids, drive around a little bit, you'll see a bunch of Siberian elm. Bummer, Siberian elm. But they have just, porcupines have moved in up there and they just clean those trees off. But if you look at these leaves, very coarsely toothed. Little leaf linden, not so coarsely toothed, they're very finely toothed. But the top of the little leaf linden comes together even, symmetrical. The top of the basswood, they're very asymmetrical, much like our American elm. They don't meet up at the top, so up there at the base of that leaf. They don't meet quite evenly. That makes sense? And then here are the flowers. They're underneath a bract. The bract is hanging there, there's the flowers, and then that's the way the seed will look. When they actually hit the ground, they're kind of like the helicopter thing. They'll get blown off and drift. But these are done with the Arboretum, different trees, different locations. You can see they're planted, one in 1975, one in 1973. In the winter, basswood tends to be very red twigged, and you can kind of see that on that tree. And the buds are really red. When you're wandering in the woods, that red bud will catch your eye. All right, it's hard to see that little guy, but the red-bellied woodpecker. It's interesting how some of the text and some of the pictures of, I did mine on typical Microsoft outfit. This is an Apple. So not quite lining up. I've seen it in some presentations where fonts go really wonky between the two systems. Just wanted to do two quick slides here with, these are other components in that big wood forest. So way southeastern Minnesota, we have shagbark hickory. Southeastern and over on the St. Croix, Mississippi. Black walnut, also southern Minnesota, not so much north. Butternut, which we're losing in the state because of canker, it did go all the way up to Grand Rapids. And so does bitternut hickory. It goes from southern Minnesota all towards the Grand Rapids area in those forests. And then the other group I wanted to just touch on quick. Couple of the oaks and a couple of the red oaks. So these are the white oak group. Plus bur oak, which we'll talk about in detail, but these have the rounded lobes. And your red oak group, which is more susceptible to oak wilts and things, they have the sharp pins on the end of, hence the pin oak name. Red oak looks real similar. Acorns mature in 1 year on the white oak group. Over here, it takes 2. So you can see these are last year's acorns, and then up above, you'll be getting the new acorns up there in that new growth. Black cherry is also well represented through this hardwood section, and it creeps up into the northeast. We won't dive into it too hard. Down is, if you start moving out of Minnesota into Iowa, Illinois, and even farther south, this is a major timber tree. In Minnesota, it just doesn't reach its full potential. I moved off the dot. There we go. So now we'll transition into western Minnesota. We're doing okay. We won't be done at 8, but shortly after. So western Minnesota, this is the Brandenburg Prairie way down southwest near Big Mound or Blue Mound State Park. That's where this came from. This is more way up north, Kitson County or near Kitson County. And we start calling that the Aspen Parklands up there. And then there's also the Prairie Parkland out on the west edge. So Kitson County is that county way, way, way up in the northwest west. But this is Lake Agassiz, the terraces. Lake Agassiz is a historical lake. It was massive. It's what they figure helped create the channel of the Mississippi River when it all started draining back in the day. And it left us our Anoka sand plains and things like that as it just drained everything out of Minnesota. So that would have been, what, 10,000 years ago? Quite a while. And it's no longer a lake. But the Red River Valley is not that far to the west of where we were standing out in that prairie. And then we have things up there like Silverberry, which is pretty aggressive. It wouldn't get used in the landscape. At least not too many good uses for it. It's a member of the olive group. Then American hazel, wolfberry, and snowberry, they're very similar, very related. And these are little prunus sand cherries. And then up above is bog birch. We don't think we talk about that one anymore. We talked about these guys earlier tonight over here. Cedar waxwing. What's it sitting in? Buckthorn. Yeah, they fly in. This is a spot near my house where there's a lot of buckthorn out in this thing called Wilderness Park. And every January, these flocks of cedar waxwings come in and they take advantage of that fruit. It's not killing them. It's not hurting them. It's good for them. We could do better. All right. Western Minnesota, cottonwood, plains cottonwood. There's also an eastern cottonwood. There's a little leaf cottonwood out west. Out east is eastern cottonwood. This one they call the plains cottonwood. They're all little leaf cottonwood or narrow leaf cottonwood is different looking, but these other guys are very similar. Massive trees. You guys are probably familiar with cottonwood. I have a picture in one of my other presentations I gave a few weeks ago if a beaver had decided to take a tree like this. And it's just, it'll be years, but he was up the stem almost 2 feet and I'm just like, what are you thinking? But that's not an uncommon sight out in western Minnesota, these trees just standing there by themselves and they're doing fine. So right now they are dioecious. So I do tell people if you're having problems with the cotton, go find the female trees in your yard and get rid of those. So this is the male catkin. You can easily see those from the ground. You can tell that's a male tree. And then the others are going to be green. So they're not as easy to pick out, but this is what we're trying to avoid sometimes. We had a auto shop up in Coon Rapids area, wanted to remove a bunch of trees off MnDOT's highway. Because all that cotton would get into their shop where they're trying to paint cars and things like that. We said, you need to work that out yourself. We're keeping our trees. And they did. And if you look at aspen, quaking aspen, trembling aspen, similar type of seed. The thing with this one and cottonwood, they have a flat petiole. So you get that quaking, you get those they're hard waxy leaves smacking together because of they have a weird motion with the leaf. Whereas a lot of them, it's, they go with the wind the way but these guys kind of do this because of that flat petiole. So they slap back and forth on each other, and that's where you get that strange little noise out of them. And I'll probably have to explain this next little picture here. So this is a cutover stand. There was a fern I was looking for up in there, little tiny ferns. And I was on my hands and knees. I was down on the ground. All of a sudden, I heard a noise behind me. And she was right back there, so I took my phone camera. I should have got a selfie. But yeah, she was wondering, what the heck is this thing? And this is a oak savanna restoration up in Kitson County. Bur oak. So you've heard bur oak grows slowly, right? This would be a place where it's going to grow slowly. Down here, they grow probably almost as rapidly as some of the other trees. But when you're out here in western Minnesota prairie, where it's dry, and you're going to grow slow. These guys are not young trees. They're not big. But they've been on that savanna for quite a while. And typical bur oak. You can see the acorns up there with the bur, the fuzz on the cap, and that's where they get their name, the bur oak. And as you can see, well represented across the state. One of the things about these trees, this group of trees that tolerate that western Minnesota, notice they tolerate pretty much everywhere in Minnesota. They handle the wet, they handle the dry, they handle everything in between. They're generalist species. This one we find down in river bottoms, not in the floodplain, but on those terraces. We find it on up the slopes. We find it on south facing slopes, north facing slopes. We find it everywhere. It's a generalist species. It handles pretty much everything. And so does this one, hackberry. It's another one that you can find pretty much anywhere in the state. Not so much in the Northeast, but down here where it's a little bit warmer, it does well, and it handles a lot of different stuff. It's another one we'll find down on the benches in the river bottoms, and we'll find it up on the dry spots out here on the western side of the state. I think there's 2 more species to go. Eastern red cedar. You can see it's got some creep up into the northeast, but not much. It doesn't get up there very much. It is a conifer. It is a very unusual trait. It is dioecious, meaning female trees and male trees. So the female trees are the ones that restoration people want to get rid of. Just take those off your site and you can keep some of the male pollen cones. There's the female seed cones. The unusual thing about eastern red cedar is in the winter, they do get this kind of reddish color to them, hence could be part of the name. They also have, these are the immature needles, very sharp, very pokey. And then these are the mature needle sets, so they're overlapped, they're very tight, and they're pretty smooth. Everybody know what that is? What kind of damage to that tree? Sap suckers. They'll go in and peck little holes in there. Little sap comes out. They come back and get that. And they might even get some bugs while they're at it, because the bugs are after the sap too. All right. Now we're going to look at its close cousin, common juniper. Notice common juniper, the one I threw in this other range map. This is one of the only species that is circumpolar in the northern hemisphere. It's on every continent. So Not too many species have managed to pull that off. This one does. Here it is in Isanti County. And you can see it's up north, very prevalent, and it's up through the big woods. But it grows in very unusual places. This is up on Palisade Head. And we're missing one picture here, but you've been up on Palisade Head? It's a big granite rock. Not a lot of soil up there. This guy's doing okay up there along with some other stuff. But it gets these little pockets of soil up in the holes in the rock. And those will hold quite a bit of moisture. Last year, well, it was 2 years ago, I had to be up there. They were gonna repaint the tower, so I had to do a bunch of vegetation assessment. I actually found a pink lady slipper remnant that is up there on that. I was like, what are you doing up here? It was pretty cool. And yes, I am a tree expert, but I love the little stuff. And then this is again, it's a dioecious species, so there's males and females. But then on northern lake shores, all over the boundary waters, any of these northern lakes, especially if there's open rock faces like this, it's where you find this common juniper. And then I have a couple more. The berries take 2 years to mature. So you can see up in the corner up there is a green one, and then another year later. And here we lost the good question. Any gin drinkers in the bunch? This is the berry that flavors gin. This is, if they say a juniper berry flavoring on the side of the bottle, this is the one they're using, not Eastern red cedar. And I think that is just about the last. Oh, that's one of the good pictures too. This is a single stem juniper, so it's up off the ground. This is on a bluff down in Alma, Wisconsin. And then the wind has swept it because it's right, the Mississippi River is right out there. It's 500 feet above Alma. They claim the park is. And this thing is just, the wind has just swept it back. It is pretty cool. It's not there. And that one dropped out. Let's hope this last one's, because it's. There we go. Time for questions. So. So yeah, that was up at Teddy State Park last winter. And there's a rule in the group that I travel with that if there's aurora borealis, you go wake people up and then bring them out. This was at 5 in the morning. I went in and I said, Lee. He was already awake, I knew that, but there was another gentleman with us, he slept through it. But this is taken with an Apple iPhone. And I don't know how they pick up the colors, because what I was seeing with my bare eye was mostly the whites, a little bit of pink, a little bit of green, but those phones just, it just pops. I'm gonna try and go back. There. I wonder if I can go back one more. There it is. You can see how the wind is just pushing that thing. But that's common juniper. They grow in, it's almost always in bare rock like this with a little bit of soil around them. So anyway, that's it.
I'm wondering when age white pine will typically reproduce. I had some that were at least 40 years old in our yard. They only started finding seedlings in the last 2 years.
So the seed was probably there,
Okay, somebody eating it?
more likely. Or that, I don't know what kind of weed control you're using or anything like that, that will impact them. So a lot of people don't even think about their trees when they do weed control. But weeds or trees are all dicots. Most of the weeds were after a dicots, meaning the 2 seedling leaves. And yeah, a niece's husband sent me pictures a few years ago. He had a boulevard tree, he had lawn service come in. And it didn't kill the tree, but there was a lot of curling and cupping on the leaves. And I told him, that's herbicide damage. Have you done anything? He said, we just had the lawn treated. And I said, you might want to ask them what they did and what they were using. And they were reluctant to say anything. And then told him, we've never seen this happen before. So he's down in Sioux Falls. I have a friend down there who's an arborist. I said, call Sam, have him come out and confirm what I'm confirming in the pictures. Yeah, it was herbicide. And I don't want to get too far of a tangent, but what they've done with Roundup now, make sure you check the formula when you buy Roundup. Because all these Extend products, these 365 products, they're bringing in some other chemicals that are not good for trees. So that's something to really pay attention to. Because people could use, before you could go through your mulch area with straight glyphosate, and it would not get picked up by trees. With all these other products getting put in there, there's a Mazapir and a Mazapic, I think, are some of them. And they do get picked up by the trees, and they hang around for longer periods of time. And actually, there's one Roundup out there now that doesn't even have glyphosate in it, and they're still calling it Roundup. And I think that's wrong. But anything else?
I have a question about invasive trees. So I've been fighting the good fight with buckthorn, getting rid of that. But I have an amber maple. And is there any reason to keep it?
No.
Or, okay. Who knows?
I don't even have on the big ones. There's one within about 50 feet of my yard. And that's the one I'm pulling little seedlings off. the
Okay,
top.
okay,
Yeah, they're pretty aggressive.
okay,
They're gonna stay.
all right. So, and like other invasive ones like the mulberry and what's the other? Well, mulberry is the other one I've been cutting down a lot.
Mulberry's good eating,
Yeah.
as long as you pick them at the right time.
But like, I guess my question with some of these is that it takes a long time for trees to grow, right?
Yeah.
And that creates some habitat, and if I plant a tree next to the one that I take down, it's gonna be a while before I get that habitat back, so. I don't know, but the amber maple is out of here.
It can be, I mean, they do provide some wildlife habitat and food, but yeah, if I had control over this one that's near me, I'd get rid of it.
Okay.
Could you talk about tamarack bog or tamaracks and like where they like me know about tamarack bogs, but I'm seeing them in some boulevards in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So like how versatile are they really?
Very versatile. Actually, tamarack is one of the reasons that we have the bog, but it's not really true bogs or wetlands. They handle moisture inundation, which means they can handle low oxygen environment. So think about compacted soils, low oxygen environment. Therefore, they can handle that pretty well. If you go farther north into Canada, you find tamarack up on ridges, up on high ground, much bigger. The reason they're here in Minnesota and some other areas in these lower wetlands, it's just where they compete the best. It's where they can get a foothold and really do well. So they are a versatile tree. Yeah, you'll see them on college campuses, you'll see them in landscape settings. And actually, they do handle compacted soils pretty well, which some trees won't do.
What about the butternut peaker? I haven't heard about that.
It is devastating the butternut crop in Minnesota. It is a canker. I don't know how many years it's been here. 20, 30, 40, but yeah, butternut is becoming somewhat rare in the state.
That's why you can't really find it to plant it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to purchase it now, I would hope.
You know, Roseville has the state's biggest butternut tree.
Yes, I do. Been there.
It's in West Norwood.
Oh, I didn't see.
It's in a
You
strange,
gotta see it.
it's in a strange little park. I don't, it's off of Dale Street.
By the.
By the new tank, not the.
Oh.
And we know that that one has canker.
Oh, it does. okay.
Yeah, but it's such a big tree. And there's several other large butternut right in that.
That.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. And you wrote the noxious weeds book, and the nettle that I tried to pull today still reminds me of that. Yes.
Well, unfortunately, that one's not on the list. Unless Monica's changed it.
No, I really enjoyed it. It was really very good. Thank you. You get the honor of picking two names.
Two names.
Two names. And you can choose, okay, read the first one.
Sarah Larson.
Sarah, where's Sarah? Oh, Sarah, you can pick whether they want the book or the mug.
Okay. Look.
Book, okay. And Aaron. So mug. Thank you for people who brought treats tonight. It's great. Don't forget the Wicked Lake event, the 25th. And then the Caterpillar on the 29th.
It's a Wednesday, not a Thursday, so.
It's a Wednesday. And don't forget, yes, Erica's restoration.
Yeah.
Yeah, invasives, yes.
What's the date?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Great turn.
Sure.
And then the answer might be able to give me some